We'll call the Kansas County Board of Commissioners meeting to order. Let's stand and for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, good evening, everybody. It's 4 o'clock on Tuesday, June 18th. For anybody watching this, of course, if you're watching it, you knew we changed the time of the meeting. And the purpose of changing the timing of the meeting is that following this meeting, we're going to have our yearly Board of Equalization meeting, which is always in the evening. So we decided to move this meeting to the evening. We have a fairly light agenda, and we'll start out by approving the agenda. I had to call for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Gardner moves on the agenda. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Commissioner Dale Anderson seconds. The next thing on the agenda is the consent agenda. There are several items on this consent agenda. The approval of the last board meeting's minutes, the approval of the auditor's warrants and claims, the approval of human services warrants and claims, updated application for a gambling permit for Little Crow Junior Golf Foundation, permit application approval for Diamond Lake County Park number 3. Just Diamond Lake County Park?
Yep.
Event, and then hosting agreement for Kansas County to host the electronic data management system for the county of Itasca. And I think we do that for about a half a dozen or so, or maybe more counties. So if the consent, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So move, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Dwayne Anderson moves on the consent agenda. Do I hear a second?
Mr. Chair, I'll second.
Commissioner Berg moves, or seconds. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I don't know that we voted on the regular agenda, did we?
No, we didn't, I don't think.
So we had a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Under the general business discussions, we have a presentation on a semi-independent living skills and a 2024 through 2026 contract.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I am Melissa Helgeson, supervisor with the Home and Community-Based Waiver Program. I am here because it is that time to renew our SILS contract, our Semi-Independent Living Services contract. This is a 2-year contract, and the current contracts expire on June 30th. I am proposing 3 new contracts with Presbyterian Family Foundation, Divine House, and REM. The prior contracts ranged anywhere from $30 an hour to $34.40 per hour. I am proposing an increase to $38 per hour for all 3 providers. They all provide the same service and they work with the same type of individual, so it really does make sense to have one rate. I did reach out to the different providers to negotiate contracts. I had conversations with other counties. That $38 per hour is pretty average. We did not renew our contract with AHL, which is At Home Living. That was the contract that I was here previously, and I could not remember the name of the company, so I just wanted to share that. They were not willing to agree to our rate of $38 per hour. They were looking more for $45 to $57 per hour. We have 6 individuals that are currently served with SILS services, and I have communicated with our 3 local providers, and they are able to take on the 2 providers that were served by At Home Living. And if this increase, if we continue to spend as we are, it is about a $5,000 increase, but it is 85% state grant and 15% county dollars. So we're looking at about $750. We also, with this grant, if it looks like we are going to spend more, we can reach out to DHS and they will give us additional funding. That is what I have been directed at this point. I cannot reach out and ask for more money until we have a plan and a need for those dollars. I can't reach out and say, I think I might need more, can we get more? Any questions?
What is the term of it again?
Semi-independent living
No,
services.
no, I'm sorry.
Oh.
How long? How long is this contract?
July 1st, 2024 through June 30th of 2026. So it's a two-year contract.
So I think I saw about a 14% increase from the old rate, if I used about an average of $33 an hour.
Yeah, yes, yep. So they're going from 33 to 38. And to be quite honest, Kandiyohi County was paying a lower rate than a number of other counties, which is part of the reason why At Home Living did not want to renew the contract with us.
And so that 38 then will be good through that,
Through
That
July,
26
through June
2026.
30th of 2026.
okay,
Yep.
thank you. Any other questions or comments, Commissioner Berg?
This is a follow-up. Do you recall in the last contract, what a percent increase we had then?
I believe
It was pretty significant too.
I feel like it's been like typically a 2 to 3% increase. I am not certain what the percent was. And so some of these contracts have a little bit more of an increase because I'm really wanting to get us at one unified rate so that we are consistent across the board with our providers. So I believe it was a 2 to 3% increase historically.
And then, what's the impact on Kandiyohi County? Do we have many clients there? Or-
We have 6 individuals that are receiving semi-independent living services. This is for individuals who have a developmental disability and are not on one of our disability waivers. It allows them to receive services to remain at home. So it's a pretty insignificant amount of money to help 6 individuals remain living in their home.
Thank you.
Any other questions? So I'd entertain a motion for the new contract for independent living skills.
Mr. Chair, I'll move the recommendation of staff to approve the new SILS contract.
Commissioner Gardner moves on the recommendation of staff for the new contract. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Commissioner Dwayne Anderson seconds. Any further discussion or comments? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
You gonna leave that with us for signing? You sure may.
I believe Mary has already submitted it for
We have all
signing.
the copies.
Okay, got
Okay,
it.
thank you.
Thank you.
That's why we have you sign twice.
Okay, up next is the resolution 2024-18, 2024 performance measurement report. Administrator Baker.
Just finding it here. Give me 1 second, sorry. Okay, sorry about that. Commissioners, Kelsey Baker, Kandiyohi County Administrator, before you today, as requested by staff, is to approve Resolution 2024-18 for the 2023 performance, that should be corrected, 2023 performance measurement report. This is something we do every year. It kind of lists why we do it in there. We have certain departments answer questions. So you have the resolution before you along with the report that we submit to the state. And this is always the year prior. So we go over, there's public safety, public works, public health, social services numbers and statistics, property records, valuations and assessments, elections, veteran services, and then our budget and financial, environmental, we include landfill statistics and things like that. And so that's all included in this report. We've been doing this for a number of years. We get money back from the state by submitting this measurement report. And so we have a list of items that we can submit information and measurements from. And Melissa Kaiser, this was the new administrative coordinator. This was her first time doing it, so it was a really good learning experience. And so yeah, the department heads just submit their information and statistics. So today I would ask for approval on the resolution.
So you heard a recommendation from the Administrator Baker. How do you wish to proceed?
Mr. Chair, I so approve.
Commissioner Berg moves on resolution 2024-18. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Mr. Dwayne Anderson seconds. Any comments or questions?
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
it's interesting to look at some of the outcomes, especially in the area of the collection of fluorescent bulbs, for example, 13,000 pounds of fluorescent bulbs. Oops, thank you. That's better. Oh, you can hear me. Yeah, I'm just really impressed with all the, environmentally, all the different things that were collected that were not really good released out in the environment, like the 2,000 gallons of oil-based paint and so on and so forth, and the electric bulbs and of 13,000 pounds.
I think especially the information that's submitted by the Veteran Services Office regarding the dollar amount of benefits that are going out to our veterans within Candioi County. And so that's a significant amount of money, and so I think this report is really interesting to see every year.
30,874,000.
In federal benefits, yeah.
Wow.
Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Eric is not here yet. He's got the next two. So we'll take a 5-minute or whatever we need recess. We'll reconvene the Kennewick County Board of Commissioners. Up next is the Planning Commission recommendations. Mr. Van Dyken.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and members of the board. Eric Van Dyken, County Zoning Administrator, before you today with a couple action items from the Planning Commission meeting of June 10th. First would be the final plat approval of Hudson's Lakeview Estates Second Edition. This is a plat on the north side of Long Lake and kind of the northeast corner of North Long Lake. This is Long Lake by Howick. The applicant has been able to finish his road there. That's what he'd kind of been working on in conjunction with Mathewitz there as they've contracted with them. And the county engineer met outside with us there, and the township officers did as well. Both approved of the construction of the road and cul-de-sac there. And subsequent to that, then Mr. Hudson proceeded with his final plat application, and the Planning Commission did recommend approval of the final plat as presented.
So just as a reminder to all of us, I guess, is that this had been in front of us before as a proposed plat, and now the work is done. And this is basically the stamp of approval on the,
So the preliminary came to the Planning Commission, but preliminaries don't come to
They don't
county
come to us,
board. So
okay.
we kind of recognized it when we went through that one meeting, but we didn't ask for any action.
yeah, so I saw it twice on planning and zoning. I guess you guys haven't. So, so you heard staff's recommendation for the Hudson Lakeview Estates Second Edition final plat. How do you wish to proceed?
Mr. Chair, I'll move approval of the final plat for Hudson's Lakeview Estates second.
Commissioner Gardner moves approval, assumed based on staff findings, and I don't
Correct.
think there are any conditions on
Thank
this
you.
one. Do I hear a second?
There,
Huh?
is it there?
Yeah, but that's okay.
That's okay?
I'll second that.
Commissioner Dwayne Anderson seconds.
We all want a second. of it.
I don't support it. I mean, no, I'm kidding you. Any other questions? All in favor? So that was, by the way, that was a really kind of fortuitous thing for you. You know, you were able to work with Mathewitz while the construction was there, and the road project now gave you the vision to do that. I thought it was pretty good planning on your part. So all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Both same sign? Motion carries. Please proceed with the next
Next action item is for a request for a conditional use permit from Dave Rigstad. This is a property up in the, if I was to generally say, the Timber Lake area up in Colfax Township. Mr. Rigstad purchased a property there and developed a horse riding arena, originally scheduled for just kind of use for family and friends. And he quickly discovered that there was a broader interest out there for some rodeo things, high school related activities, et cetera. And in order to move from kind of a family and friends to opening it up more broadly to the public, kind of on a commercial basis, we steered him through the conditional use permit process, asking for kind of an event center, a riding arena. And he did meet with the township, and the township was really the only ones present there to comment. They didn't have any concerns that weren't already addressed in the discussion. And so the Planning Commission also was viewing it rather favorably and did recommend approval of the request with 4 attached conditions. And the findings, as you see there, the conditions are fairly straightforward. One of the key things, of course, for the township is that we don't have a bunch of parking on the road, overflow onto the road, et cetera, and a few other things to make sure it's meeting some requirements. So with that, staff recommends approval as you, with those conditions and findings.
So you heard staff recommendation. How do you wish to proceed with that
Mr.
recommendation?
Mr. Chair, I would move to proceed with staff's recommendation with the conditions and findings.
So we have a motion on regarding the Rigstead application. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Berg seconds. Any questions or comments?
I do have one question, and I just seen it, and sorry, Eric, for just seeing this, but was there a reason that it had to be concluded by midnight? I just happened to just see that as I was looking through this right now. Sorry
Yeah.
about that.
So a lot of times when you think of, when you think of events, there's some motivation to put a cap on how long will this last? How many hours into the night? When do we have people leaving? There's some safety things that can come with that. And then there's just neighborhood peace and quiet. We don't expect a lot of noise and disturbance from it. I think if the applicant had reasons to push for something later, they might have requested it. And in this kind of a situation where most of that activity is taking place, it might not have been terribly bad to go a little later, but it seemed a reasonable limitation to them as well.
Okay, no, that's fine. Thanks.
You bring up a good question though, because, wedding events probably wouldn't be out of the question out here at this thing and perhaps, but, at the Prairie Woods Environmental Learning Center, it's 10 o'clock deadline. So I guess you go into those events knowing what the limitations are, so. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. Next application is that of Donald and Shirley Schuler. This is Deerview Dairy down on County Road 5, southwest of town here. They're looking at a pretty significant expansion. For some time now, they have been kind of incrementally increasing their ability to operate in a more modern fashion. Most recently, they have upgraded their parlor significantly. They now have a rotary style parlor, and they can move more cows through. And one of the things that comes with that is eventually you want to actually put more cows on there to move through to continue to be economically viable. Another big part of this proposal is that they are dramatically undersized on their wastewater storage, their manure storage. And so what they find is that they're having to land apply throughout the year more frequently than they'd like. They would prefer to be doing that once when the conditions are right for it in the fall. And then that forces them also to sometimes go out when conditions aren't great, which probably not best environmentally, and also not always best for our roads and safety with mud tracking and that kind of thing as well. So I think there's some real benefits that can be expected here, just operationally and obviously economically for them. One of the things I think that's worth pointing out is that though they've been operating there for many years, we really don't have a history of complaints there, and that was borne out also in the hearing, that we didn't have any neighbors there to express concern about this expansion. So the Planning Commission also was quite amenable to this request and does recommend approval with the same conditions as had previously been in place for this operation, conditions 1 through 4, and the findings as you see in the draft minutes.
You heard staff recommendation on the application for the expanded dairy from Schuler. I'd entertain a motion to approve.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the application as presented with the conditions and findings as stated herein.
Commissioner Dwayne Anderson moves. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Commissioner Dale Anderson seconds. Any comments or questions?
Oh, I have one
Go ahead.
question. So now that there'll be over 1,000 animal units, it says that state is involved in permitting. Does that mean that you have nothing to do with it after this, or how does that work?
That's actually the pollution control rules. So what that means is that Russ, our county feedlot officer, no longer has jurisdiction over this feedlot. So he won't be issuing the construction short form permit on it, nor will he be doing the regular inspections on it. The state takes it over at that level.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Eric. And you are up next on the subsurface sewage treatment system program overview.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the board. I'll introduce myself again with a new agenda item. Eric Van Dyken, County Zoning Administrator. I also have the pleasure of overseeing broadly under zoning the subsurface sewage treatment program. And I want to take a quick minute to acknowledge Krista Krupa here. She is sitting right in the back in this large crowded room. And Krista is really our backbone of this program. Krista's the one that does all of our daily oversight of this program and administration. She's been at that role for, I would say, around 5 years now, just coming up on 5 years or right at 5 years. So she's really, I think she would definitely tell you that from when she first came in and she said, sewage what? To where she is today, she's really doing an excellent job. So I think we can all be proud of the work that Krista is doing. Overall, our program on sewage treatment is, I think, serving well the overall function that we expect in government. And we understand our police powers to broadly be for the protection of public health, safety, and general welfare. That's kind of that phrase that we bandy about. The state then took that general mandate. They form a statute, which has the basics of this is why it's important, this is what we intend to do. Then they take that statute, and from that authority, they promulgate rules, which works out all the detail about what does good sewage treatment look like? How do we understand the science of it? How do we apply that on the land? From there, they kindly tell the county, you get to administer these rules. They give us a little stipend for that, around $20,000 in our natural resources block grant every year for that administration. At the local level then, we take it the next step and we adopt a local ordinance. We have a standalone ordinance separate from our zoning ordinance that governs sewage treatment. It adopts the state standards for how to build them and then adds some things that we may deem on a local level to be good for Candioi County and our citizenry. Our program overall philosophically is predicated on the ideas of relationship and education. We feel strongly that in order to achieve improvements in public health and environmental protection, we need partners. We don't need to be bullies, we need partners. And so we see that as a four-way partnership. The state, of course, is an important partner because they're the ones that tell us, guide us as to how these rules are going to be designed. The county, of course, is the partner, and then there's two other parties that we work hard to maintain relationships with. That would be our licensed professionals. The state licenses them. We interact with them. And then, of course, last and certainly not least is the landowner. We know that we need landowners that have bought into what we're trying to accomplish. And so for us, that means we take the time whenever we can to explain the hows and the whys of what we're doing. It's not simply your system failed, you need to upgrade. It's here's what makes a good system. Here's why old systems maybe don't meet the standards that we're looking for today. And here's the potential impacts for you on your well, maybe for the lake that you're living on. By doing that, we're able to slowly but surely take the public from maybe a place where they may not be excited to hear about having to spend money or having a new sewage treatment system or what type of system it might be. And over time, we get more and more buy-in. We also need the citizenry bought in because we aren't at their houses to manage their systems for them. And so we need them to be good managers of their own systems. We need them to be careful about what they put in there. We need them to call a maintainer when it's time for the tank to be pumped. We need partners, really. And so that's, again, why we approach that from a kind of a relationship aspect. At the local level, we do have some triggers or regulations that are a little above the state regulation. Specifically, and the main thing that we do above and beyond the state is that we have extra triggers that say it's time to look at your sewage treatment system to make sure it's doing what it should be doing. The main trigger that we have for that above and beyond state rule is a property transfer inspection requirement. That means if you own a property and you're selling it, you owe the buyer a completed report of that sewage treatment system. It's essentially like a heightened version of a disclosure. It's like more than just here's what I know, it's here's what I know as told to me by a professional. And what that means is that when we have bad systems out there, slowly but surely, we're going to identify those systems and get them replaced with good systems that are protective. It also means that when you go to buy a home, you can have some level of knowledge and expectation of what you're getting yourself into. So you might buy it as is, in which case you might assume the responsibility for any needed upgrade. But you're entering that, not maxing out your budget for the mortgage without figuring that you're gonna have to spend $20,000 more, or maybe having a failure in 6 months because they told you it worked great, and maybe it was mom and pop living on it, and it worked, but now you move in with a family of 6, and all of a sudden, a couple months down the road, and you got a problem on your hands. So it's been a very effective. We've had it in place for probably just about 20 years now. We started that program up shortly after I arrived here, and I've been here 20 years now. The other significant trigger that we have beyond state requirements is that when you're in a shoreland area, which of course means we're close to water, which naturally feels like a good place for a little extra protection. So if we're in a shoreland area and you're asking for a building permit, you're asking for a zoning authorization, we're going to ask you for an updated certificate of compliance or inspection report. That again also provides that protection, and the sell there we have for people, the explanation we can help them understand is that they value that lake as well. They're on that lake for a reason. They want that lake to be clean and healthy. That impacts their enjoyment, that impacts their property valuation. So these are all ways that we can help them maybe take the sting off the fact that, yeah, sometimes when you get the news that you have to replace it, it's a bit of a sticker shock, and it's not maybe something that everybody's planned out for, but hopefully we can get buy-in when we get good explanation. A compliance inspection is going to look at the real basics of that sewage treatment system. It's really going to look at, does this protect public health? Does it protect the environment? And it doesn't add all sorts of bells and whistles about, is it the best system possible? Is it fully sized even, is not necessarily one of the requirements. Just the basics, protecting public health and the environment. If it meets those, they get a certificate of compliance, and there's fairly specific standards. The most obvious one is, can people come in contact with sewage? That's the most obvious failure we could have. That might involve a failure into the yard, a discharge into a lake or a ditch, something like that. Based on that, if they have a failure, they have a certain allotted amount of time, 2 years or 10 months to upgrade it. We generally shorten that into, you can do it this year or you can do it next year. You have 2 construction seasons to get this accomplished. For people with the most common failure, which would be what we call a failure to protect groundwater. You might hear about system types. You might know your own system type if you have a system and you're not on a public sewer. You'll probably hear people more commonly say, how come we have to always build mounds nowadays? Well, we don't build all mounds. Mounds are one option. The soils will dictate to us for the type of system. We end up with roughly half of our systems being mounds every year. So there certainly are a good number of other types of systems. We can have certain types of in-ground systems, a pressure bed, some gravity trenches. Yet, as you can imagine, if I'm down in my neck of the woods in Holland Township, heavier soil, higher water tables, we're going to typically be building up with a mound there. I might be up in Roseville Township on some of Mr. Hudson's property. I might be building a gravity flow trench system yet. So our soils are going to be our biggest determiner there. You will see some people on holding tanks. Generally speaking, holding tanks are going to be for seasonal or low flow type of uses. Maybe a farm shop. They don't want to put in a whole system. They're only in there using a bathroom and a sink, a couple times a week or something. Maybe a whole system's not necessary. You can hold that. It gets pumped out. It gets treated for disease-causing organisms by pH adjustment, and then it gets land applied somewhere at an agronomic rate. So holding tanks, some counties maybe aren't as excited about them. We have enough small lots, and if you go up and down like a lake like Big Canyon Lake would be a classic example. A lot of seasonal recreational use, a lot of small lots, a lot of high water tables. That's a good that's a good set of circumstances that tends to force us to choose holding tanks as a pretty good option there. Some of the trends we've seen in the last 10 years, the permitting, we've averaged about 140 systems per year. I think Krista ran the numbers. I think it was just over 1,400 systems that we've installed in the last 10 years. That would be down from the heyday of Candy White County development when we were platting more and maybe doing a little more rural development around some of our lakes. And also a big factor would be naturally the extension of the Glacial Lake Sanitary Sewer District. Of course, we started to run into more and more problem systems and problem lots, and it was feasible and desirable to extend the sanitary sewer district to around a number of our lakes. And so that, of course, takes a lot of individual sewage treatment systems out of circulation there. That is not necessarily a bad thing. We do like the idea of on-site treatment for a couple reasons. We're not shoving mass loading down the stream, so we're not sending phosphorus down the stream. And we're better at groundwater recharge when we do that. So if we put that water back into the soil, has a chance to go down, we can do groundwater recharge through that. So some real benefits of on-site sewage treatment, but there are limitations as well. Of course, we know that our lots aren't all made large, and people have some pretty significant desires for their lots as well. You have to tell me if I'm getting too wordy for you. 15 minutes is kind of what I planned for, so I got a couple more things to maybe highlight, and then if you have any questions for me. The cost of systems, you may have heard, has been going up. Krista ran a cost estimate for me of an average system right about now would be right around $16,500, which I can remember the day in fairly recent history where 10 felt like a fairly expensive system. And so a lot of factors that push that, materials, fuel costs, labor costs, all sorts of things conspire to, just like the rest of our economy, push some things up in cost. We are glad, though, that with those costs, we can also be a partner. I've talked before about relational and how do we build partnerships. One of the ways that we can offer the feel of partnership is through the support of the board through the years of our loan and grant programs. You all through the years have authorized us to apply for funds, to run loan programs, and also to apply for grant funds and run a grant program. And the loan program is more long-standing and there's a lot more funds available there, but both are important programs for us. We have, since our loan program started, we've loaned out more than $7 million, which is not, of course, an insignificant amount of money. This is all money that's low interest. This is all money that our auditor treasurer's department runs through on special assessments. We've had maybe 2 defaults, I think, in the entirety of this loan program, so the risk for the county has been extremely low. The property itself then essentially is collateral. And that represents 750 systems. So that's 750 different landowners we've been able to help with loans. And for a lot of people, when your system goes out, if you hadn't been budgeting, some people, this is a big deal for them to be able to access that money. Right now, we lend that money out at 1% interest. So you aren't going to find that, of course, anywhere else. The grant program is newer, but the state has been continuing to slowly but surely push more money to this program. So far, we've got a total of about $250,000 run through that program, and that is an income-based program, and it's funded at 2 levels, 50% funded, and you could fund the rest of it, then the other 50 through a loan if you wanted. And then for very low income by USDA guidelines, we will fund 100% of the system. We do have some caps on there to make sure we don't get a runaway cost or maybe get somebody trying to take advantage of the system. We want to have a little check and balance in there. But that I could still picture the first time we got this grant program. The very first system we did was up in the New London area, and it was a lady that had significant health problems, was very low income, and had simply a non-functioning septic system. She could not flush a toilet. And this was the only way for her. And so they're real stories out there and they're important. And so we just want to stress the thanks that we have for you as a board to support these programs, because they're really important. And again, that building an ethos of we're here to help you. We're not here to beat you up. And when we can actually offer things that help rather than just give lip service to that, that's tangible to the public. So that is kind of a fun little cherry to put on the top of the program. It's a fun way to end. And you can expect that over time, Krista will be back with you with renewed requests for funding. We're kind of pretty practiced at now running through that cycle. And we're always appreciative of your support. So with that, hopefully that maybe gives you a little bit of an overview of kind of why that program is important, how it operates, and some of the things that Krista gets to deal with on a day-to-day basis. She never thought she'd be looking down in septic tanks and sniffing and investigating and stuff, but it's all good work, and we're happy about how the program is going here in the county.
Well, thank you very much for that overview. And this is an information only kind of thing, so I'm just going to open it up for questions. Corky, I see you.
Oh, yeah, very interesting, nice update. I really appreciate that. Too often we hear from the public, and thank you, Krista and Eric, for what you're doing. It sounds like, I like your approach to that. Often I hear from people concerned that there's too much government rules and regulations. And yet I've heard recently from some people actually saying, hey, a lot of those you're doing are the bare minimum. And I want quality, or I want some protection. But the things you mentioned, when you're talking about higher standards than the bare minimum, when we look at consumer protection, safety, health, and environmental issues, those are important. And I think you're approaching that really well. And the only way to approach it really well is what you brought up, is that we're partners, we collaborate and work together to meet that goal, that we are doing a good job of consumer protection and taking care of our environment and health and safety. So thank you very much. It's good to hear that. And it's good for the public to be aware that we really do care. We just don't put rules and regulations out there for the sake of rules and regulations and I got you type of thing. So that's a good approach. And thank you for, we have a high standard here of taking care of his people. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Good comments. Anybody else? Go ahead, Dwayne.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so my question is, this isn't just us doing it, it's state saying we have to do it. Is there federal too, or is it just state?
EPA has certain expectations of the state, specifically the Pollution Control Agency. They're from the Federal Clean Water Act, but I don't, and that's what motivates our statutory authorization that results in the rules. The state has very little, the federal government has very little involvement. Where they do tend to get involved is in septage application. We don't govern that locally, the state does. So the state's relationship with the federal government on septage application, that would be the stuff they pump out of your tank, is the same as our relationship with the state on sewage treatment rules in general. So they mandate the state do the septage rules, and the state mandates we do like the installation and design rules.
But the state kind of says we have to.
Yes, this
They
is
have
a
to-
mandatory program for us. Yes, we don't get to opt out of this program.
So people complaining to me about, well, they're so expensive and why do I need this? It's because the state basically mandates it, and
But
we have to administer it. So,
But, Mr. Chair, can I just follow up with that?
Go ahead.
Comment, yes, the state, the government regulates that, but those are minimum standards they're putting out there. And we're doing our best to make that work for them. So I think that's the important thing too, is and it's not just, well, I'm sorry about that because it's not our fault we're doing this, but yes, there's a good reason for these things that are there. And here we can point these out to you. And we're going to work with you so that it's not going to be as much of a burden as possible. We're going to try and minimize that. And this burden is spread out over everybody. So thank you.
Commissioner Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Eric, you seemed a little wistful at the end there that Krista was getting all the fun about getting to go on site and all of that. In all seriousness, I want to thank you both for the work that you do in this area. It's one of those things where maybe you hear about it from folks in that somewhat negative fashion, but really this is a public health issue. It's an environmental issue, and I appreciate the work that you're doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Well, I can speak from personal experience, and I know that
That's right.
you were on open mic with me about 2 months ago, 3 months ago now, and we had an opportunity to talk about this loan program, and you may have covered it again today. I think you pre-recorded for it. But it's really strange that, well, it's not that strange, because until it affects you, you don't really pay that much attention. And why I say I speak from personal experience, we managed to get a new system installed between all the rain just last week, got done on Thursday. And by the way, we came in quite a bit under that average budget, which was very pleasing to me. But we were lucky with our soils and our situation. And what was interesting is my wife was out for a walk with a neighbor who has lived in the neighborhood longer than we have, and the neighbor said, gee, you had to put a new system in. He said, we're here longer than you are, and you know, I suppose our day is coming too. And Judy said, you know, I'm gonna go tell Sue about that program, because I'm damn sure that our neighbors don't know anything about this loan program that can make it very easy to accept the fact that you gotta put a new system in. And if you haven't been budgeting for it, we usually aren't. With a roof, there's probably insurance involved. There's no insurance involved here. So it comes out of our budget. And so that loan program is very, very, very nice feature of what you do. And to the point of, you know, people saying, oh, you're making us do it. When that toilet doesn't flush, you're gonna wanna do that really quick. And you could be really anxious for that contractor to show up and get the work done. So, again, thanks for the work, as Commissioner Gardner says, and we'll try to get the word out as best we can about the availability of that program, so.
Thank you, Ron. Appreciate it.
All right. With that, we have any administrative updates? Administrator Baker?
I just thought I would report on two things. We had the county picnic last Wednesday. We served around 250 to 285 employees out around 400, so that was a really good turnout. I'm gonna do a shout out to Melissa, because she really ran with this. Really for the first time kind of doing a county-wide picnic like this. We heard very good comments, so we'll work on doing something next year and maybe keep some of the stuff the same, maybe change stuff. So it was not only a kudos to Melissa, but to the department heads. We really wanted to do something to give back to our employees that do, just as Eric and you all were saying, this continued work that's not easy, and sometimes it's smelly and difficult, and some days are fun, some days are hard. And so the department heads, we really wanted to give back to our employees, and so this was a way to show that. And so I'm really proud and thankful to be a part of this leadership team, to be able to do something for our staff in a really large way. And it was really fun. Melissa and I were greeting the employees walking in, and we had a lot of the department heads and serving the meal and things like that, and greeting people and talking with people. And so it was a really fun day, just to appreciate the work from the department head level, to appreciate the work they all do. The other thing, we are in the midst of the budget cycle right now, and so I had talked about previously if the budget work session would be at the first or the second meeting in August, based off vacations and inputting things. We have our auditors here the week of July 8th. I think I will plan the budget meeting for August 20th. That's our second board meeting in August. We'll do the budget work session following that meeting. So if you want to add that to your calendars, maybe be available up until 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. It'll depend on what we have on the agenda that day. We're going to do something a little bit different this year. You're not going to get your typical format for the budget that, or workbook, I'm going to call it, that you have typically gotten in the past. I'm going to create some other documents for the board that will maybe be a little bit, in my opinion, easier to read. A quick resource that you can keep in your book, things like that, in your bags. The other added thing is we're going to have each department. So on the previous years, we've had certain departments come and present on their budget. This year, I've invited all of the department heads to come and we'll do a PowerPoint presentation slide. Each department head is gonna get one slide, whether it's 2 bullet points, 15 bullet points. They'll be able to go over what's changing within their department, what are some high priorities, what are some things that they wanna be aware of, different things like that. And the overall thing that we're all kind of seeing for 2025 budget is the planning. This is the year we're planning for things. So you'll probably see that theme when we do the budget work session. But other than that, just day-to-day administrative stuff.
Okay, Commissioner Dale Anderson.
Just a couple of things. Last Saturday on the 8th, we had Lake Andrew Lake Association and the Games Lake Norway Lake Association meeting kind of at the same time. Me and Roger were at both of them. Just interesting to hear and see what people are concerned about on the lake, I guess. And just to be able to be there to answer questions, I thought was kind of an important thing. And I'd never been to the Lake Andrew one, so it was people I didn't recognize, and it's just a little bit different. But still working on projects on Norway Lake, and kind of gave a little update on that. The only other thing, the district meeting was the other thing that I had, I guess, to talk about. Really neat building that Rambo's had there for our district meeting. It was great to see the tour of their industry and how they've grown and stuff. And I thought there was great things AMC presented to us to keep us up to date at that meeting. But that's all I have.
Very good. Commissioner Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. 2 items real quick, and they're related. The Economic Development Joint Powers Board met last week, and the topic is determining finalists for the executive director position at the Candido County Economic Development. At this time, there are some T's to cross and I's to dot yet, but it appears we are going to be interviewing up to 4 different candidates, and that will take place on July 8th. There will be a full day on that day, starting with some meet and greet for some of the officials and representatives from our surrounding communities within the county. There'll be a bus tour, and then there will be some other opportunity to visit with candidates briefly if folks so desire, and then the afternoon will be taken up with the interviews. And that's the basics of what we have going on at that time. And I also wanted to mention next Tuesday, starting at 4 o'clock and going until 7, this is the reception at the Barn Theater for Aaron Backman, who, of course, is retiring from that position. And everyone who wishes to do so is invited to attend, and wish Aaron well. His last day in office, I believe, is the end of next week. He has some vacation time that he's burning up, and so I think he's officially done at the end of July. And I just want to say that I think he's done so much in 8.5 years that he's really raised the bar for the expectations that we should have for an executive director, and look forward to the completing the process of selecting his successor.
Thank you. Commissioner Burton.
Oh, okay, thank you. I had the Prime West meeting the first week of June. That takes up most of the day. Probably the most important thing to report on that is that they're in the process now of reimbursement to the communities for their grants, and so they'll be putting that information out soon about the process. So that's we're looking forward to that. Also, I had a brief meeting on community corrections, and Administrator Baker was part of that on the 10th. Also, on the 10th, I was part of the EDC meeting that we met, and we covered a lot of ground, let's say, in that, and going through the candidates that were applying. And Mr. Chair, MDEC was also part of that meeting. That was very good. And then on the 11th, actually, they call it Haven House, the girls' group home, and they had a special meal for volunteers and people that support them a lot, including law enforcement. And they did a great job, and it was a variety of foods and volunteers that helped make the food. And there was, Hispanic food, there was Spanish food, there was Somalian food, and it was great. It was nice weather for it, turned out to be. And it was nice to see some of the clients there as well. And I understand they really appreciated that. And then on Wednesday, as Commissioner Anderson, Dale Anderson mentioned, that we had our district meeting, and that was at Rambo's, and that was really a good meeting, good turnout with everybody, and a nice meeting place. I've never been there before. It really worked out well. Same day, I had after that, a PAC-4 meeting in Atwater at the elementary school there. I'd never been there before. It was a very good meeting and a good speaker. And they had somebody speak on the newest survey that was done with PAC-4 in the state of Minnesota of adolescents in school with drug, alcohol abuse, suicide, and so forth. And I don't have time to go into the details, but something like that would be really good for the board meeting too. But that was very interesting, very educational. And I had another EDC meeting that day as well. Really nothing to report back on that at this point. And then on Thursday, I had the Joint Ops EDC meeting. I've been going to the EDC quite a bit lately. And that was an excellent meeting too, and that was Mr. Backman, and what Commissioner Gardner said, he's surely going to be missed. And it's maybe big shoes. It's going to be hard to beat what he's done, but he's got so many things out there that's going on that maybe just a new person can finish up the job that there's so many potential of the things that he's put out there. And I'm not saying he didn't finish the job on them, but there's so much going on now from that point of view, both on attracting businesses and infrastructure and the roads and transportation and housing and childcare. I mean, that's all part of our economic base for us, and how to look at agriculture and tourism and the whole county, and yet all paying attention to the cities. And as we move forward, these are exciting times to keep this rolling as we have. And I also attended the Bush Mill ethanol plant in Atwater. They had their annual meeting, and they invited the commissioners. I had a chance to attend that, and a very big turnout of people. There was a lot of investors there, and they had a short investment meeting, but basically it was there for a lot of those people, as well as any politicians, and Representative Baker was there as well. And we got a tour of it, and that is a major business, very big. When it comes to ethanol plants, it's kind of in the middle, I understand. Some are a lot bigger, some are a lot smaller. This one seems to be doing well, and how things have really changed there. From the ethanol plant. I never realized that, but there's a lot of byproducts that they end up reusing. There's actually end up with corn syrup, and they can resell that, or they end up with a lot of what's left over from the corn that's there. It comes out, it can be either used as fertilizer or even food, and then at different stages that's available. So some of it at the very bottom is too moist, but there's farmers around here that they can use it if they can get there in a couple of weeks and grab it, and they do that. So they maximize that. And I think they went from 4 gallons, it was increased by at least a fourth to a third of amount of ethanol they get out of the corn than they used to, versus the water usage. And they're doing a great job of trying to reuse the water that they have as much as possible. But basically, as long as we have time, it's a giant foxhole. They make a lot of alcohol there, and they ferment that. They actually add the yeast and so forth, and that's what a lot of the stuff you see that coming out of the chimneys and stuff like that, connected with that. And I asked them, well, when do you add the hops? And they laughed. So there's no hops in that alcohol at all. It's not the kind of alcohol you want to drink, let's put it that way. But that's what they're doing, and it's quite interesting thing, and it's really interesting to have that in our community, and how they're trying to do as much as possible from the environmental point of view with that. And then on Friday, we had the 18 County Mental Health Consortium, and this was a very big meeting, and that we had Ann Goring there to talk about the joint powers and legally how to go about that. And she did a very nice job, And up to that point, there's so many different points of view, and I think, by changing the wording of some of the things, and actually some of the group to be willing to, well, yeah, I can live with that, and I can live with that. At least at this point, we're crossing our fingers, but she took back some changes, and she's going to send out a new copy then of a joint powers agreement that update it, and then we are to take it all back to our local county attorneys to go over that as well, and bring it back to see if everybody's willing to sign on to that. So that's going in the right direction, and just it's reorganization, but it's been running well. But it's a matter of how the structure and going forward and to have the oversight being appropriate. And then the other major piece of it is that because the way DHS is working, we had quite a discussion about that. These grants are 2-year grants, and to cash flow them after the first of the year, it really gets to be quite a problem. And we passed last meeting with a 57,000 something to contribute based on a base amount as well as population to have some money to work from, because a lot of joint powers, counties kick money in ahead of time, and to start out, you need to have a checkbook, you need to put money in the bank to start your business. We have not done that because we are running off grants. And so what we get in, we got to spend, and we get a little bit amount for administration, that's about it. And it's the timing of it is causing some problems. So that's why we're trying to use these dollars. But the big question is, we want to try to get DHS to change it, and it's going slow. And they want to change it, but it's a matter of seeing that if that can be changed even with them. And do we have to do it legislatively? And we're looking at that as well. And Representative Baker has been involved in that as well. So we have to see if every county is going to be able to and willing to do that. Because I think every county is available, it could do it. Big Stone County made the initial motion some time ago, let's all chip in $20,000. And that's when all of a sudden some of the other counties, well, it's not fair. So forth. Bigger counties should give more and stuff. So this is where we ended up, and hopefully we'll find out. But the interesting thing we're going to have to deal with is she's saying, really, under the joint powers, you can't force a county to pay, or we can say you can't be in here. So we're going to have to figure out how we're going to deal with that if some county doesn't do it. But I would think, I would be very embarrassed if our counties would not do that. And the other counties did, and yet our Kansas County would reap the same services. So I think it's going to turn out really pretty good. We have a good group, and I think everybody had a chance to speak. And like our leadership training a few weeks ago, but at the end, if everybody had a chance to say your piece, have you thought about this? Are you okay with this type of thing? So that's how we ended up. We'll see how it goes. So moving on, and then
So Commissioner Berg, just
Yes.
so you know, you probably don't know that there's lunch waiting for us in the next round. Really?
Oh, no. Well, I thought I had all this time.
I assumed that,
and I'm not
that
running
you
for
didn't know that
re-election
based on
either.
it. So we will move along.
Well, I
here.
will move along, and thank you very much. And
I just want to stipulate that I knew it
yeah.
really quick.
And I had some of the money, but I'll
Okay.
give you a chance to talk.
Commissioner Dwayne Anderson.
All right, okay, I had several meetings too, I'm gonna try to keep it quick.
Okay.
I went to a pre-construction meeting over at Public Works about a road on June 5th, there was just pretty much routine type of meeting. Then June 12th, I had a lot of meetings, I had the AMC meeting, and I had to duck out of there after about an hour and a half or so to go to my ARMORS, or the Emergency Services Board meeting. That was pretty much a routine meeting. I'm the chair of that, so that's why I had to be there. And then also they take attendance, so that was that meeting. So on the 12th, I missed the county employee appreciation picnic, which kind of wished I could have made it, but I couldn't, and that's just sometimes how that goes. On the 14th, I had 2 meetings. I had South Fork Crow River, 1 watershed, 1 plan meeting. And that was basically our finalization of the whole process. Now we submitted it to the state, I believe, and, or we're going to, and then, they'll either approve it or not, but it basically is gonna be approved, and so then that allows us to tap into more resources. It'll be about 1.2 million, I think, for every 2 years, and, but it's 9 counties, so, you know, so that 1.2 million doesn't go very far, but hopefully we can get some nice conservation type projects going on the South Fork Crow River. And then I also had a Central Minnesota Jobs and Training meeting on the 14th. That one, you know, they've had a few issues. One of the latest issue is they're doing the state's doing the forensic audit on that board or whatever, and for Central Minnesota Jobs and Training, and yet we have an annual audit that's being done. The people doing the annual audit think they can't finalize anything until the forensic audit is done, but the state says, yes, you can, because it doesn't affect what our scope of the project. It's kind of a separate deal, they claim. So the problem with that is we have to have that annual audit done. It was supposed to have been done, I think, by the end of March, and they're still not finalizing it. They have all the information. They have what they said they have it done, but they just don't want to give it to us. The problem with that is we could end up getting into a problem with getting grant money if we don't get it done. So then we decided we're going to send a letter to them going, hey, we need to get it done. And then we all had our names put on there and what county we're from, so they kind of get the message that, you know, it could cost them if they don't get it going here. So that was basically what happened at that meeting. And then, let's see, I just missed Diamond Lake Association meeting. I missed that Saturday morning. I don't know what I was thinking, but I had it on the calendar and I just happened to miss that. So that's basically my report, so.
Thank you. And the beauty of going last is that some of the stuff's already been reported. I did have a North Fork One Watershed, One Plan meeting on the 5th, which I attended. Did a constituent thing out in the Howick area regarding planning and zoning, which was resolved very nicely. Prairie Woods Environmental Learning Center, I couldn't make that one on the 8th. In addition to the Games in Norway Lake meeting that I attended, I also had Green Lake that morning. And by the way, the 1 year I was renting on Green Lake, I forgot to go to that meeting. And so it happens, you know. And then, let's see, Joint Powers Board, as you already talked about, June Planning Commission, Planning and Zoning, and then the 12th was District. And then I also had Mid-Minnesota Development Commission meeting, their annual meeting that evening just across the campus here. And on the 13th, well, I had a conflict with on the Bushmill thing, and then that's it. So I think we can go have a quick lunch before we go to our Board of Equalization meeting. We are adjourned.